Alrighty, so let's go ahead and talk about the development process for the Spring Boot backend. And before I get there, I just want to do a little checkpoint here in our Java development environment. So one thing is that we're going to assume that you're already an experienced Spring Boot developer. If you don't have any Spring Boot experience, I recommend you go find an online tutorial for Spring Boot. There's a lot of free ones online. I also have a beginner's course that covers Spring Hibernate and Spring Boot. You can take a look at that if you need to get up to speed. And then also you should have the following items already installed in your computer. So you should already have the Java Development Kit installed, the Java IDE. We'll use IntelliJ in the videos, but any Java IDE will work, and I'll talk more about that later. You need to have Maven already installed, and also the MySQL database, and also the MySQL Workbench, the client admin tool. Alrighty, so about IntelliJ. IntelliJ is this super amazing IDE for Java development, and I highly recommend that you take a look at it and use it. So in this course, we're going to use the free version of IntelliJ. It's known as the IntelliJ Community Edition, and you can download it from the website here on the slide. And once you're at that given website, you simply select Community Edition, download it, and get it up and running. And the Community Edition, you can use it for building the applications that we'll use here in this course. They also have the Ultimate Edition, so it's a paid version. It has a lot of additional enterprise features for you. If you're working for a company, your company could probably purchase that Ultimate Edition for you. But anyways, there's a free trial of the Ultimate Edition that is available, and you can download it also from the link that I gave here on this slide. So either way. But in this course, the development that we're going to use, the Community Edition, will meet our given needs. And if you want to see a comparison between the different editions, the Community and Ultimate, at the JetBrains website, they do a really good job of showing you the comparison of features. Alrighty, so additional Java IDEs, and you're probably wondering, well, what about Eclipse? What about VS Code? What about NetBeans? And the answer is no problem. You're free to use other Java IDEs. All you need is a Java IDE that supports Maven. That's it. You can easily follow along this course with any Java IDE, and we'll also provide support for IntelliJ, Eclipse, VS Code, NetBeans. So feel free to use any IDE that you're most comfortable with. Don't worry, we got you covered. Alrighty, so our Spring Boot backend. So we're going to leverage Spring Data REST for our REST API, and it'll actually minimize the coding for the Spring Boot backend. So again, we're building this full stack application, Angular on the front, Spring Boot on the back. We somehow need to create REST APIs, and we'll use Spring Data REST to help us out with that. Since you already have some Spring Boot experience, just a quick refresher here. So Spring Data REST will basically scan our project for a JPA repository, and it'll expose REST APIs for each entity type for our JPA repository. So here's one example here. We have this product repository, extends JPA repository. We give the entity type, comma, the primary key type. So the entity type here is product. The primary key type is long. And based on this information, it'll expose REST endpoints. So a bit more here on the REST endpoints. So by default, Spring Data REST will create endpoints based on the entity type. It'll make use of this simple pluralized form. So it'll basically take the first character of the entity type and make it lowercase, and then just add an S to the entity. So in our example of our product repository, extends JPA repository, product, comma, long. It'll basically expose an endpoint called /products. So we take product, simply add an S to it. So the really nice thing here is that Spring Data REST will expose these endpoints for free. So we'll basically have a /products, and we'll have support for all the different HTTP methods for post, get, put, deletes. So this will give us all of our CRUD support for our given entities for creating, reading, updating, and deleting. So very minimal code here for exposing your REST API using Spring Data REST and also with Spring Boot. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and look at our database schema. This is for release 1.0. So we'll have two tables to start out with. We'll have a product table and also a product category table. So a quick run on the product table. Most of these fields are fairly self-explanatory. At the top, we'll have the product ID, and then we'll have the SKU, we'll have the product name and description, also a unit price, an image URL, And then we'll have the active field, which is Boolean. So this will say if the actual product is active in our catalog or not, or if we should show it or not in the display. Then we have the number of units in stock, the date this given product was created in our database, last updated date, and also the actual category ID that this product is associated with. And then over on the product category side, we have the actual product ID and the actual name of the category. And then when you look at this scheme, you're like, wow, this is really small for an e-commerce project. Well, remember, this is for version 1.0. At this point, we're simply displaying a list of products. Our database schema will grow over time as we add more features and functionality to the database. But this is enough to get us started with release 1.0. And then also in this database schema, we're going to make use of some advanced JPA mappings. So we'll make use of many to one. So we'll have many products that belong to one category. And we'll also make use of one to many. So one category has many products. And these are advanced JPA mappings, and we'll actually make use of them in our full stack project. Alrighty, so our project will have two database scripts, O1 create user and O2 create products.sql. Alright, so a bit more about the O1 create user.sql. This will basically create a MySQL user for our application. The username will be e-commerce app, and the password will be e-commerce app. Alrighty, and so information about the O2 create products.sql. So this will create new database tables for product and product category, and this will also load the tables with sample data. Alrighty, so looking at our Spring Boot backend, so our main thing to do, our main goal here in this section is to actually build the Spring Boot backend with the REST APIs and also provide access to the database using CRUD. So here's our development process. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll set up the database tables, and then we'll create the Spring Boot starter project. And with our starter project, we'll add in some dependencies for a Spring Boot starter, data JPA, data REST, the MySQL connector Java, and also Lombok. And then we'll develop the entities for product and product category. And then we'll create the REST APIs with Spring Data JPA repositories and also Spring Data REST. Alright, now you may have noticed the reference to Lombok, and you're probably wondering to yourself, what exactly is Lombok? Well, Lombok's a modern Java project, and Lombok will automatically generate the getter and setter methods for you behind the scenes. So there's no need for the developer to manually define getter and setter methods. Lombok will do the work for you. Lombok has easy to use annotations to eliminate boilerplate code. And you can get more details on Lombok at the website here, projectlombok.org. So let's take a quick look at Lombok. So it's really easy to get started with. So before Lombok, we would create a Java class and we would manually define all of our getter and setter methods. Now, after with using Lombok, we can create a Java class. We make use of this special annotation, this Lombok annotation called @data. This annotation will actually generate the getter and setter methods for us. All right, so that's it. So there's absolutely no need for us to manually write the getter and setters. Lombok will do all of this work for us behind the scenes. So notice here, it makes your code much smaller, and it also minimizes the amount of boilerplate code that you, the developer, have to write. Lombok will do all of that work for you behind the scenes. So we'll use Lombok in these videos just to minimize on the boilerplate coding, but there's no hard requirement for you to use Lombok. You can create your normal Java classes and define your normal getter and setter methods. It's totally up to you. But here, we'll make use of Lombok just to minimize the boilerplate coding and also to make the videos go a bit faster. Alrighty, so I'm excited. Let's go ahead and move into the IDE and let's get started.